Hi, this is Adam Fenn, and I am back with another Wrestling Tools tutorial. This time I'm actually going to show you how to use the scoreboard. The first time we're going to show you how to use an actual Wrestling Tools video effect. So we'll waste no time, we'll get started. The first thing you're going to need to know when you configure a lot of these Wrestling Tools effects is you're going to need to know the event ID from TrackWrestling. If you'll take your web browser and go to TrackWrestling.com, and you'll notice I'm going to TrackWrestlingTesting.com. Don't worry about that. In your case, you're going to go to TrackWrestling.com. And in the quick search for the name of your event. In my case, I'm going to search for an event I use for testing. Just search on NCAA, and I find the NCAA National Team All-Star Duel. And if I hover my mouse over that event, I see the tournament ID pop up. You see that OT-303-7009. If you're using a different browser, it might show up in the bottom lower left-hand corner of your screen on your browser there. You're going to want to make note of this number. So I'm going to make a mental note of OT-303-7009, and then I'm going to go back over to CamTwist. So in CamTwist, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a new button. If you're installing a distribution, if you've installed from a distribution of mine, then you're going to have a scoreboard button very likely already created for you, and you won't need to do this, but I'm going to do it here just for clarity's sake. So I click the new button, I come over here and I double click Untitled and I name it Scoreboard. I'm actually going to name it Scoreboard 2 because I already have a Scoreboard button. Then I click Elements, I search on Scoreboard or Score, I find the Scoreboard effect and double click it. And then I'm going to save that button and enclose the elements. Now there's a number of different options you can see down here in the lower left hand side that allow you to configure things. You can drag an image file for a logo to be to the left of the scoreboard. Just drag it right in here to the logo box and it will pop that onto the image. In the track server, you're going to enter the IP address of the local server at your event. You're also going to select the local server checkbox. In my case, when I'm doing testing, I test on a test server. You're not going to want to use that server for anything. I don't check local server because I'm using a server on the internet, but don't worry about that. In your case, always enter the IP address of the server that is local to your event, that is on site at your event, and check the local server box. Then in the tournament ID, select or enter the ID that you received from that the Track Wrestling lookup that we just did a few minutes ago. Now, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to deselect Scoreboard and reselect it. And I can see that actually because I have it configured correctly already, CamTwist loads up the effect and it works perfectly. Now let's say for a moment that I had mistyped the tournament ID, and in this case I'll just put an extra 0 on there. What you'll see is a help screen pop up that shows you the server connection is good, but the tournament ID is invalid. Please enter your tournament ID, and it actually tells you how to go to Track Wrestling and find the tournament ID for your event. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that, and while I'm doing that, though, I'm also going to mis-enter the mat ID. I don't know what mats are actually. 15A. And just type in some garbage. So I wait a couple seconds after I press the enter key, and in this case I'm going to go ahead and enter that again, and it tells me that my server connection is good, my tournament ID is valid, but my mat name is invalid. Please enter a mat name, and valid mat names include mat1. So I'm going to need to enter that exactly as it shows there, mat1 with a space between them. And then I press the enter key. And when I do that, it realizes everything's configured correctly and it starts to pull the data, and the help screen goes away. So if you do make a mistake in the configuration, just know that the help screen is there to help you. Another thing you can do in the very bottom here is you can actually click the help checkbox, and it'll pop up a help message that will explain to you all the things that I'm explaining to you now. You can deselect that. And another good thing to know is that if you happen to be if you're in preview mode, the help buttons will work or the help screens will work, but as soon as you cut into program mode and you're live, those help buttons will no longer work anymore, and I'll show you that here. I'll go ahead and select the help button. The help message is on, and I cut it over, and the help button or the help message goes away. So I'll put it back, the help message shows back up, select the scoreboard button again, and I'll get rid of that help message so we can see what we're doing here. Now another thing I can do is I can choose to enable the tail of the tape, which will basically, when a match starts, it'll pop up a message for a few seconds that shows some basic information about the athletes. And not all information is populated for every event, so you're going to want to validate this at the beginning of each event. And you may not want to include all these fields. You're certainly not going to want to include the ones that are blank, that are not populated for that event. And there may be certain ones you just don't feel are appropriate for that event for privacy reasons or whatever else. So you can select those or not select those. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave, you know what, I'm going to leave tail to tape on. The image field, by the way, does not work yet. I'm hoping to enable that at some point in the future. I'm going to enable club. I'm going to enable hometown, and then I'm going to deselect the rest of these things. And I'm not even sure these are populated for this particular event, but we're going to give it a shot. So I've got it there, and while I've got my settings all configured, I'm going to click that Save button again, and then I'm going to put it into the program view. So I'll cut it over there, and now I'm going to, you see the tail of the tape pop up right there, and it's going to fade away after a few seconds. And then I'm going to scroll over to another screen where I'm going to actually control that bout so you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to click the Start button on the clock, and you can see the clock starts to tick down. I'm going to select some points for Dan Dennis, give him 2, and 2 pops up. I'm going to select 2 for Troy Nickerson, and 2 pops up. I'm going to go ahead and say that for some reason we decided to stop the period. The clock stops. I'm going to actually declare a winner, so you can see the little check boxes pop up. Let's see. See the checkbox pop up. I can put one on the other side as well. I'll change periods and select another period. You can see these things. Actually, I didn't select the first period. So you can see these things taking effect on the scoreboard right now. I'm just changing things around, clicking some points, starting the clock, stopping the clock, doing various things, and the scoreboard's working fine. So now I've kind of proven that that works. I'm going to go ahead and call this bout over with so you can see that. Save the results there. And now I'm going to let the screen fade away. If I don't load a new bout as the mat side score controller, the scoreboard will fade away. And then when I select a new bout, it'll pop right back up. So it pops up, does a little animation, does a scoreboard, or the tail of the tape again, and we go off to do our next match. I want to go back here and show you one more thing I think I overlooked the first time around here on my scoreboard settings. If I were doing folk style rather than freestyle or Greco-Roman, as I am right here, with red and blue as the colors, I can select folk style, and it'll automatically change the colors for me, and it'll change the way the scoring works, and the period buttons go away, and all the display just changes a little bit. So that's how you do it. You just enter the logo, enter the IP address of your local server, make sure that local server button's checked, make sure you have your tournament ID entered correctly and your mat name entered correctly, and you've properly selected folk style or not. From there, it's up to you whether you want to use the tail of the tape and what fields you want to populate. Probably don't want to populate the ones that are not filled out for that particular event, but that's it. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Be sure to check out the next one. We talk about the live scores ticker.